Trading lord, him, millionaire. And I lost it all. So it was a very, very dark, and simultaneously I was in an accident with my best friend. So my best friend died in my arms. I lost all my money. The worst times in my life were due to trading. And I've had this multiple times over the past 3-4 crypto cycles where I made 7-8 figures and back to zero. We're talking zero.
You mentioned leaderboards earlier in terms of credibility. Today I reached out to you. You're number one on the ByBit leaderboard.
It was the first time in my life. It was a very emotional morning for me. I called my parents. I cried on one of the biggest exchanges, ByBit. I was the most profitable trader in the past 24 hours. I have $1 million positions open right now as we speak. If you know how to play the game and you run the playbook, you can print money out of thin air to an extent. Investing, having an edge is being quiet about it. For me, Bitcoin will go to $100,000. There's zero doubt in my mind. And I've been memeing and posting about this. And now with Trump potentially getting elected and whatever, like we could have $100,000 Bitcoin by Christmas. Literally. This is how confident I am that Bitcoin is going to go into a pretty outrageous bull market over the next 6, 12, 14 months.
People who've been in maybe the last 2 cycles, have done the round trip, bought well, but didn't close well. What would your advice to them be to hopefully make a change? Hopefully make a change and put themselves in a better position.
If you've been watching for this long, this might be the most interesting part.
The number one podcast in the trading space, the fastest growing, and that's thanks to every single one of you. Welcome everyone back to the Words of Rizdom podcast. We are still in Dubai, the last podcast for this Dubai trip, and we had to finish it on a bang, on a high note. We're still the number one trading podcast in the world and the fastest growing thanks to all of you and our incredible guests, talking of which today we have the one and only, and he's no introduction because it is the trading lord himself, Scott.
Thank you so much for having me, my friend.
It's my pleasure. See, I try and go for the sort of boxing intro, the huge.
Oh yeah,
you've actually had that, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was an interesting experience.
We'll go into that. We will go into that
sure.
at some point. Where I like to start though is just why trading. I always go into why trading. Trading is one of the hardest things to do in the world. Trading/investing. Most people who do get into it quit very early on.
Yep.
And yet you've been doing it a very long time, very successfully. And still
arguably. To be very honest with you, I hate it. I hate it to this day. I cannot wait for the day that I just look myself in the mirror and the people around me that love me and care about me, that I'd never have to do day trading again. It's very important to kind of specify these different kind of ways of managing money inside of these financial markets, because people they just throw around the term trading. And trading is the most personal thing in the world because you are in a very unique position. You have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of money, a certain amount of knowledge. And trading is just you taking all of these things, combining them, and then trying to find ways to be profitable with it, right? So why did I start? Early on, I had no money. When I started investing in crypto in 2016, I had $200 to my name. As you mentioned before, the story. I bought Ethereum at $7, which is very early and great. But it's not like I've held on to that specific Ethereum all that time, right? So why did I start with trading? It was for me just a means to somehow, of course, what everyone is dreaming about, to make more money with the limited amount of capital that I had back in the time. And then from there on, to an extent, I got lucky, but very much so I just kept on doing it for years and years and years. And this is something I always tell all the guys that just, hit me up and be like, I want to be a trader too. Everyone is glamorizing the fact that you're a trader. Most of the people that publicly as traders are more marketeers, or, they're just selling their courses on how to trade without having any public kind of they've never been on any leaderboards, or, they have very, let's say, intransparent performances over the years, but they're good at selling. So in my case, I've learned very early on. I went balls to the walls. All the money I had, the $200, went into crypto. And from that point onwards, and this was nearly 10 years ago, every single penny I accumulated, maybe through other ventures, I continuously just put it back into crypto because I felt like the risk reward was immense. And in terms of investing and being involved in the industry to this day, maybe now we can speak about AI, because AI and crypto, I think right now should be the core focus of every person below 30 years, but also older people. But I'm saying, if you're young, driven, and you genuinely want to go somewhere kind of quick, you need to be absolutely informed about crypto and AI. But yeah, and then, from the early beginnings to now, I started to become a little better at it because, trading and investing is 90% experience. It's literally try to avoid committing the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. And it takes some time. You cannot teach the most important lessons in investing. You cannot. You can read 19 books about the psychology of investing, the psychology of money, the psychology of trading. You can read all the technical trading books in the world. The moment your money is on the line, the moment your life is either about to change in a positive or negative way, throw all of them out of the window because you won't care about the fact that Warren Buffett once said that's just not the way it works, right? So it takes time to just get used to the fact that your money is constantly fluctuating, that you need to start to build confidence in yourself, that you need to execute and just learn from your mistakes. So why did I start? Because I had no money. Why did I stay? Because I became somewhat decent at it after 10 years of failing. When will I stop? I would say probably another year or two, and then I try to focus on different stuff that just excites me. Why did I say that I hate it? Because the worst times in my life were due to trading. Were literally in situations where I was on the wrong side of the trade, where I woke up, risk wasn't managed, money was gone, all the effort, and I've had this multiple times over the past 3-4 crypto cycles where I made 7-8 figures and back to zero.
Wow.
I was very wealthy on paper, very young, and very shortly after, back to zero. We're talking zero. So, and these are the lessons, as I said. This is the stuff that it breaks you.
Yeah.
And either you give up or you reinvent yourself with the lessons and the wisdom, or Rizdom as they call it here, that you learned from these experiences.
No, I love that. And we're going to take it very early back because from hearing your story of getting into crypto, it was someone in your school, if I'm not mistaken, and they asked you, about Bitcoin or crypto, and you said, "What's
Correct.
that?" And their response to you was like, "Oh, I thought you were smart."
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like to hear that sort of response and that sort of the pushing into the crypto scene?
I mean, it's exactly what I needed. It's exactly, to this day, I thank that man with all my heart. And, he's still a good friend of mine. And whenever I see him, he will always have this special place in my heart because he was essentially the one that just made me feel like a fool. And I knew he was a very, very smart individual. So if someone extremely smart says something with pretty high conviction and you're standing there and you're like, I think this is ass, without you understanding any of it, and he then calling you out for you not, knowing your stuff about it, that's, especially for a person like me, like I'm pretty outgoing, when I have confidence and conviction, I talk about these things. And the fact that a person that I was looking up to was really like attacking me personal for my intellectual capabilities because I wasn't aware of what was going on was enough for me to go home, read into what Bitcoin, decentralization, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts were. And this was back in 2016 where the education was extremely limited.
Yes. Yeah.
I do not come from a tech background. I don't come from any tech background. I have a PhD in yapping, but back in the days, for me to understand what a smart contract is, to understand how these blockchains work, it was much tougher back then. Now you have people like you and myself that, speak about these things. So the amount of effort you have to put in to understand these things in a kind of like simplified basis it's much easier to digest. But yeah, so this man just called me out. Why don't you know the value proposition? Why don't you understand the value proposition of Bitcoin? While back in the day, I was already doing e-commerce in 2016, which was years before the actual e-commerce drop, or not drop, but more like the actual hype around it. And I stopped doing it completely. I had some minor successes. I was selling cat balls, 50 pieces here and there. But again, I was a student from a normal household. The thing is, because I would say I dress well, or I always wear shirts and suits. So people are always like, yeah, he comes from a very wealthy family and he's just spending his dad's money, whatever. I'm just like, bro, I've literally publicly been in the trenches grinding for 10 years. Yeah, so, to get back to, I was broke. I had no money when I was 16 years old. I have 3 siblings. My dad is a very, very hardworking and great man. So, yeah, e-commerce started it, semi-successful. The guy in high school says, you're an idiot that you don't understand what Bitcoin is. It was.
Do you think if he didn't do that, though, would you have got
probably,
into it?
Probably. But the fact that it came from a person that I thought so highly of, in terms of the guy was the smartest person I've known, right? we randomly bumped into each other in an economics class. So it was just destiny that the guy was calling me out while I was like, yeah, I have my first business already. I'm making a little money. And then homie's like, yeah, I mean, how much of your net worth is in Bitcoin? And I was like, I don't want to buy drugs. What are you talking about? So I went home, and I think it helped a lot with the conviction that I had in Bitcoin over the years. He was raising questions why Bitcoin could fail potentially that were years out. Like he was so sharp about a potential point of failure years out that then made him question, maybe I shouldn't buy Bitcoin at $200. Because he was theoretically the most knowledgeable person that I know of in this specific industry. But he was so smart, and this happens sometimes. I've seen some of my very sharp friends, they start to question their own investment thesis because they just know too much. Instead of just being like, 99.99% of the people don't understand the problems that I'm overthinking about right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was the balls, he was the brain. I came back next econ class and I was like, yeah, I put my $600 in my $300 are in ETH. I found out about ETH. And he was like, oh, but there's this. I was like, bro, don't tell me that I'm an idiot for not knowing about it. Now I am balls to the walls, all in. I would appreciate if you would come back and put your money where your mouth is as well. So I bullied him into putting his money back into crypto. And keep in mind, ETH was $7, Bitcoin was 350 maybe. So yeah, we were an interesting synergy back then where I was so overly confident in the fact, to an extent, basing my investment thesis on his brain. And he was a little, but Scott, think about it. I was like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about, and I don't care. From you as well. So he got the confidence, I got the knowledge, and the rest is history.
It's the classic, mastermind right there.
Correct.
But you did mention at one point that there was not much information back then. And one thing that is fascinating, it's an amazing thing, the amount of information that's available now, the amount of insights that people can get now. But equally, someone just made a reel. I made a reel, a short form piece of content like 2 days ago.
Okay.
Basically saying like it's impossible for you to fail now. You have access to so much information, mentors, etc., etc. Someone responded to that, and what they said was very true. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. It's like, yes, there's access to everything,
but the amount of trash that you're about to consume.
But people don't appreciate it anymore. They're not willing to put in the work because it's just readily available. Versus back in the day, your parents might have had to go to a library to learn about a subject.
So you were very committed to, I want to get that piece of information. And I think it's even more relevant in crypto trading, investing, whatever. The guys that are doing very well in that specific industry, the last thing they want to fucking do is get on a podcast and yap for 8 hours. I have $1 million positions open right now as we speak. Don't you think it would make more sense for me to be at home and monitor my stuff instead of yapping here? It damn would, right? But I just feel like it gives me just so much joy. But to get back to your original question, I think in crypto and investing, it's very dangerous because, as I said before, the one who is very, very good at investing and trading is very unlikely the person you see yapping about crypto and investing the most. These guys are in the shadows. In investing, having an edge is being quiet about it. I always have to laugh, when the guys are like, come in my group and get this trading algo that made me hundreds of millions of dollars and here and there, only for $18. If there is an edge, you will extract it, you shut up about it, and you milk it until it's not an edge anymore. An edge is just like an advantage in financial markets. So yeah, it is unfortunately in our industry specifically. And I guess some of the guys watching me right now are like, oh, the guy is yapping and he looks like a douche and he speaks like this. Fair enough. But I think at one point you have these public, verifications, being on leaderboards, being very close with all the big exchanges. Why? Because you provide volume and you've been around, the block for a couple of years. But yeah, there's a lot of trash out there, unfortunately. There's a lot of trash. But as you said, on the other hand, there's also, if you are committed to understanding what is right and what is wrong, who's good and who's not, you can still very much filter out the noise from the potential $1 million value piece of information that you get from someone. And, I didn't plan, for example, to be an influencer or whatever, and I'm just on Twitter, and now we start to do a little bit more of this. But it was just, I love sharing my stuff, and I would love sharing and getting the feedback from other people saying, I don't think this investment is great because this, and this. And potentially there's a piece of information that I then use to reevaluate my trade or my thesis and be like, ooh, this is something I didn't know. And this is also a very interesting topic where we could speak hours about insider information in financial markets and specifically in crypto. the guy who, runs the company, the guy who runs the token, his cousin yaps to his best friend. There's exchange listings on major exchanges, all of it. It's all bribery. It's all like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to talk about, but there's a lot of juicy stuff on how 95% of the successful crypto projects are literally orchestrated with, since day one, like the whole lineup is clear. Like who is going to talk about it, who's going to invest in it, at what valuation, and then on the retail side of level, who from public influencers is going to talk about it, what kind of metrics can we fake, and then immediately we get the big exchange listings, which then puts us to 150, 200, $300 million valuation. It's all a big, it's a big spiel. If you know how to play the game and you run the playbook, you can print money out of thin air to an extent. But who's the one suffering from all of this? The retail baboonie who comes in and is like, oh, I'm just buying my first token. The token is worth already $300 million valuation. He just sees the US dollar value of the token itself. He's like, oh, it's only 3 cents. This can go to $50 as well. Not understanding, that the denomination of the token, just because it's worth 1 cent doesn't mean that it's cheap.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
This is a classic, and I might have said a few people, Ripple, XRP, is a token that everyone always yaps about. I've been investing in Ripple in 2017 when it was 0.000002 or something. Like I did a times 100 on that specific token. Right now,
let's take a break for a minute there, guys, because I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Alpha Capital. Now, without our sponsors, it's not possible for us to host such incredible podcasts around the world and get the level of guests that we are getting. So again, thanks to Alpha Capital for sponsoring the podcast. Now, Alpha Capital is one of the best prop firms in the industry. So far, this year alone, they have done over $50 million in payouts, which is absolutely incredible. They have the very best infrastructure in place for longevity, from an in-house broker so they can offer the very best trading conditions and platforms that all traders love to use. They're still able to offer services to the US as well, so the US traders can still trade with them on particular platforms. They have institutional experience, so they know how to manage a prop firm correctly and have such an incredible team on hand. On top of which, they have both a pro and swing plan. So depending on your style and strategy, you can choose which one is best for you. Now you can use and get the highest discount available at anywhere using Riz25. So that's RIZ25 for 25% off all challenges. The link's in the description below. So let's get back to the episode.
The same narrative, the same bullshit I hear at times where people are like, oh, why don't you have Ripple in your thing? They're going to replace the fundamental way of how banks transact with each other. Shut up. Like it's the token is worth billions of dollars. There's zero fundamental value tied to the actual token. Just because it's worth 30 cents doesn't mean that it can go to $20, because at one point the amount of money and influx of capital you need to put, go from 3 billion or 50 billion to 150 billion, at one point nothing makes sense because it's already so overvaluated and so overvalued. And but normal people that have zero background in crypto or investing just don't know these things, and that is when they get seriously burned, where they put their their retirement money or their dad's retirement money or whatever into stuff like this, that then at one point will inevitably go down 99.9%.
How important in crypto in particular, like it's important in trading as a whole, but especially in crypto, is doing good quality research, taking your time to research, because as you said about deciphering between the bad actors and the bad information and the good information, really it's just time, like just taking your time to research and observe and just take your time to take on the content that's out there and decide to be able to decipher. A lot of the time it's the bad actors saying the good lines,
Absolutely.
right? Telling you this coin's going to 50x or whatever it may be, and therefore you're just very heightened towards it, versus if you just took your time to look at the bigger picture and do your research, but especially when it comes to investments and coins.
On the other hand, sorry to interrupt you, but because it's very, very relevant. On the other hand, what is the hottest thing in crypto right now? It's meme coins, right? So there is no fundamental thesis related to it, but there is a cultural thesis around it. And me, I consider myself a fundamentalist. I have never been big. I've never hit a times 5,000, whatever, with a meme coin, because I'm just not in these environments anymore, right? So many people outperform me on a short period of time or with luck here and there. But at this point I keep most of my money, right? And I can still make reasonably sized bets where the upside is still so much bigger than in traditional finance, for example. But the fact that meme coins outperform every single utility token right now is a very it's a unique and weird position for me as well. Some of the projects that I have very high conviction in terms of fundamental, value are doing, no one cares about them. Because now what has happened is the guy who screams the loudest about this is going to do this, this, and this, it's now transformed into kind of like on-chain, right? So the community that is the loudest about, I have a dog and the dog has a hat, and suddenly you're laughing. Dog with hat is $1 billion asset, and it's a picture of a dog with a hat, right? And people get behind it, and you are being part of a culturally relevant movement, a community, but it's tokenized. And the bigger that community gets, the more the token appreciates, right? A very smart and good friend of mine said, buying dog with hat is like buying Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
30 years ago. It's the same. We don't think about it. We're like, a meme coin should be worth nothing. Well, what is Mickey Mouse worth? It's a culturally relevant thing that people just like to see, to look at, to wear it on a t-shirt. It doesn't matter to speak about. So this mind share of a meme coin suddenly being worth billions of dollars and everyone can financially benefit from it is a game changer. It's huge. And my company now, for example, we're building inside of a middle ground, I would say. It's called Collective. So we're very much, it's all about the community, but we're building pieces of infrastructure that benefits them to excel in various areas in their life. But we, I would never call my project a meme coin, but it's still a very culturally relevant coin, right? So I think going forward, this trend will remain where just building good tech, a good product in crypto, it's just not going to go that well anymore because the attention is just not there. People don't care if you build something fantastic unless everyone's talking about it. And the only way for you to go viral, so virality needs to be now put on top of fundamentally interesting projects, right? Just being the best, having the best product will lose if another project is the same or inferior, but has a crazy community around it and everyone speaks about it and everyone therefore invests in it. So that is kind of the shift we're navigating in the crypto space right now, where utility gets zero attention. Everyone screams, I have a giraffe with hat now because the dog with hat did so well. So there's 19 copies of everything.
Of course. Yeah.
And, the liquidity is spread around, the capital is spread around. The most interesting thing probably that is happening is VCs, like big venture capital firms, they're not in the fucking meme coins, right? So right now, we had a period where most of the bigger crypto projects, they were all heavily VC funded. So the moment they get on the market, they're already worth 70, 150, 300, 400, $1 billion. Like we've seen crazy stuff. The retail investor, as we said with Ripple, for example, the retail investor has very limited upside with these VC funded coins, but they're still carrying all the risk. And they have someone that did already a times 100, the VC, that is just constantly selling. So there's an unlimited amount of selling pressure, unlimited amount of unlocks. And you're the one rooting publicly, saying, I hope this is going to continue to go up. And then next to you is the guy with the dog with hat, where the community bought, or everyone bought in at 5 million, and they get so much more attention, so much more virality, and they run it to $1 billion. But it's interesting now because the funds are now, like even the big VCs, they're now pivoting and injecting serious amount of money into meme coins. Like the timeline is crazy right now. So you see very well-established venture capital firms with hundreds, if not billions of dollars under management investing in absurd, funny meme coins. So this is the state of the market right now.
It is interesting, and when you were just saying that and breaking it down in that way, it really does open your eyes into thinking like what the future does hold, not just in terms of meme coins in the crypto side, but even traditional investing too.
Yeah.
But a couple things just to touch on. So like the comparison to Mickey Mouse, for example, it makes complete sense and it is true. But then it's the reality of like, will it have that longevity like Disney's had, for example? Because comparing then, let's say the meme coins for me as of right now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert in the crypto space, but I've been around it since about 2016 as well. Never been really actively involved, but I've just kept up to date.
Yeah.
But meme coins for me just feels like NFTs.
The flavor of the month.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just feels like NFTs, like huge hype, like very similar in terms of its concept. So we had NFTs, we had the Bored Apes, we had all sorts of different characters that were created, and then the meme coins seem very similar, right? But also when you were explaining there, one thing that came to mind that I think could have some longevity to it is, and it might not just be in meme coins, it might be in crypto as a whole or investing as a whole, as I said, is just that layer of how the world is shifting towards that more social media driven, attention driven, just generally like our society.
And I think there's two small fundamental differences between the NFT bubble we had in 21 and the current meme coin bubble, whatever you want to call it. First, with the NFTs, there was a team that was selling out the mint. You know, everyone was hyping it up. The guys made the bag, and then they're done. So I think this is very important because most meme coins, they launch very fairly. Meaning, if I work for my bag, as they say, is if I, post the memes everywhere and try to convince my friends that this meme coin is different, the financial upside and the core team is still very much involved in, because if they stop talking about it at one point, maybe everyone stops talking about it. So I think there is a slight difference between how NFTs, the money was raised and the involvement of the team and their drive towards, let's get this to $1 billion, let's make this a globally accepted meme. The second thing is most of these meme coins, or the big ones that I think will generally pop off, they are established memes. There's a meme, for example, and I go into this story because it's literally worth, and I will potentially link you up with the man that I'm talking about when I reveal his identity at a later point. There's a meme that is extremely popular in Asia in general. I have never seen it before. It became a token. My friend bought close to 2% of the supply for $50,000 maybe half a year ago, 8 months ago, whatever. He knew how he thought the meme was funny. He thought the meme was, great, and it's going to continue to become even larger and larger and larger. So he bought 2% of that supply. I think the token is worth over $1.5 billion today, meaning his 40,000 turned into double-digit million and up. Like it generally looks like it's about to be one of the top 10 biggest meme coins tied to an actual meme. But the difference, and why I point this out, is they acquired the IP for that meme. So the guy who invented, or the animator, because some of these are not even like pictures, they literally just invented animations. What they're doing now is they're buying the IP of that, and then the community and the token kind of like represents literally the value of that IP. So the virality of that meme then of course, kind of like relates to the financial, value of the whole thing. And the whole thing is represented by tokens instead of a company that holds the IP or whatever. So I do believe the big difference between NFTs is some of these memes have been established and around for years or decades. Now, when the team does well, they take funds, they approach the actual origin source of that meme, they buy the IP, and then, it gives the whole thing a little more longevity and seriousness. And this is, I think, a little difference between NFTs, where they were just making stuff up. They got capital up front. The team's like, I just sold out $1 million worth of worthless NFTs in 2 hours. We've done great marketing. It's time to retire.
Do you feel like, off the back of what you just said there, do you think there's a possibility of it going a step further? So they buy the IP and then they create an actual... So essentially it starts as a meme coin, it raises funds.
And this is exactly what they
do. And then it turns into a company.
100%.
So like
100%.
that Hawk 2 girl, she was a meme, and now she's got a massive podcast.
And this is exactly what is happening right now. So the same way, similar to what I do in my company now, is once you have the money, once you have the funds, once you have, in our case, I funded the company up front. So it's even, there's zero capital from initially external involved, which is even more bullish for a community, because you can literally, I always compare it to walking past Steve Jobs' garage while he is kind of like, just designing the iPhone or thinking about it. And then you being like, oh, don't you maybe need $1,000 just, to go and get a plane ticket and see someone in Silicon Valley? Yeah. And then, you can get 30% or 5% of the company for that plane ticket, for example. Like, it's such crazy early stage, which then again makes meme coins and crypto just so exciting, because sometimes if you look through all the bullshit, you just find these crazy early projects that will end up doing hundreds of millions of dollars of volume and then go into billions of market cap. And this is when you hear these stories. I hit a times 1,000 on $200, right? Which is then still millions. But as you said, the Hawk 2 girl is also a very relevant example of virality and then turning it into a sustainable business. She had a one-liner, so I don't know how long people will remain interested in her. But I feel like she's still there, so I'm quite impressed.
Yeah. I think she has a good background. One line, but then like turning it into like a podcast, which then could be monetized on its own.
She has merchandise, and then it goes there and there. Yeah. No, I think we're very much on the path of just replicating all of these things, but in a tokenized form. So imagine you could have, and I know it for a fact, she's about to launch a token. Because she's been back and forth replying to some of my bigger crypto friends. Like she's on her team is on the verge of launching a Hawk 2 token. at one point you're diluting your value because now, you have a podcast, you have clothing, you have this. And unless she does it extremely smart, and also in terms of regulation, like we are in the Wild West. How much of the value can you actually incorporate into this token? Andrew Tate, I wouldn't call him a friend of mine, but we have a few friends, that are very, very mutual. And, he was texting me on Twitter asking for advice on how to incorporate some of the value into his token, because he just launched a token kind of like on the whiff daddy. He said, I have unlimited money, unlimited power. We're going to run this to $1 gazillion. But the thing is, if you have to carry the boat yourself, if you are suddenly the meme, it's easier to speak about Mickey Mouse, because we all like Mickey Mouse, than for you as an individual to say, I love Trading Lord, and Trading Lord's coin is the best coin, and it's all about Andrew Tate, right? So he needed to, and this is the advice I gave him when he texted me, you need to vertically integrate with as many companies and people from the industry in order for this to become a community, and not just, I am a fanboy of this specific person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with the Huck 2 girl, we will see. My prediction is she will launch a token very soon.
It wouldn't surprise me. I was thinking, like, why hasn't she already?
Yeah, I guess the management is too slow.
Yeah, I know. But it will be interesting, though, because it's essentially like, imagine like a Barstool Sports or like the Sidemen or like like a Logan Paul, for example.
Yeah.
It could be a new age. I would love to see it like become a thing, like what we're discussing right now.
Tokenizing social media has been something that was tried quite recently and failed quite miserably. And I think there's a few reasons why. First, because the regulation is not in place. How much can I share? Can I do revenue share now as Logan Paul? If I drop the Logan Paul token and you can speculate on his growth. I had this idea, I think, since 16, 17. Like, I'm not a tech guy. I don't want to say I'm very smart. I'm very average in everything. But sometimes I think about little visionary things quite early on. So I was thinking to myself in 2017, how could you tokenize potential? If I see a person and I'm just blown away by that person's capabilities in whatever way, shape, or form, how could I somehow financially benefit from this by giving them the resources to just excel and become the best in the world? If you go to your cousin's football game and you see a little Leo Messi there and you're like, this is the sickest kid I've ever seen. Like, he's so good. But his parents maybe don't have the financial resources to put him in the best schools. And you could just chip in and be like, let's put this on the blockchain. I would love to have a smart contract that says, for the rest of your life, every football, maybe he ends up being a doctor, you don't know. But if I give you as a family now $5,000 to put him there to make him eat well, whatever it might be, and I will then get 20% of every single revenue that is tied or linked to football for the rest of his life, I think that is an interesting concept, no? I feel like, am I going down too far the pure capitalism path, saying, yeah, you financially profit from someone in early stages? On the other hand, he could have been the next Lionel Messi, and because he didn't have the $5,000 that someone potentially could have given him, he didn't end up being the greatest of all time, right? So I think there's very much two sides of the story. For me, it was always a very interesting concept. And recently there was a project called Friend Tech, where it was more for crypto-related influencers, but you could issue and buy a token and then bet on that person just becoming more popular. But it was very much linked to you getting access to a Discord or Telegram style group. So what has happened is it was interesting to see, because the guys that are popular, the guys that are great at trading or investing in crypto, they don't specifically need the money, and they don't want 50 people holding your token saying, give me more value, give me more value. I bought this for expensive because, you're popular, you're up. So you invest in something quite expensive. And then you feel like, first of all, the creator of the token is now in a position where there's hundreds of people demanding stuff from you all the time. So a great trader now suddenly turned into an influencer. He didn't want to be there. He just thought like, I'm going to launch my coin as well because everyone else is doing it. And then suddenly all the people that were involved were seriously demanding his time, his efforts, his everything. And then at one point, everything just kind of like flipped over and everyone was like, it's too expensive, you're not getting value. And then the whole concept for now kind of failed. I think the biggest issue with the whole concept was, again, because you cannot integrate enough value propositions that are not directly linked to me being in a room with you and you giving me your insights or your attention.
It's going to be interesting.
I'm buzzing. Someone will create a killer application on this, where you tokenize. And funnily enough, a friend of mine, he's been backing influencer backed ventures for a long time. He's done KSI, Logan Paul, all of the bunch. And now he invested in Collective, in my company at early stage, because he thinks there might be an interesting synergy where a person like me as the CEO is bootstrapping the attention, similar to a meme coin. He thinks the meme is funny. In my case, he thinks because I am actively talking about all of this and the company and what we're doing. So I bootstrap it initially to get the attention, the capital, and build the infrastructure. And then later on, Collective turns into literally this community-driven and owned project. So I do believe that there's a merit of finding the balance between utility and virality. And I am quite confident that my company will potentially be one of the ones that maybe make it big, right?
I hope so. If you do, you have to come back for part 2.
For sure, inshallah.
But you mentioned leaderboards earlier in terms of credibility. Of talking of which, obviously, literally the day I reached out to you, you're number 1 on the ByBit leaderboard.
I don't want to sound like, it was the first time in my life. I know, but it was the first time in my life, and it was a very emotional morning for me. I called my parents, I cried, and I said, hey, it took me nearly 10 years of pressing buttons on a screen, but today, on one of the biggest exchanges, ByBit,
Let's take a break for a minute there, guys, because I want to tell you about the best trading tool on the market, TradeZeller. The reason why TradeZeller is the number 1 trading tool that every trader needs is because you can do backtesting, automated journaling, trade replay, in-depth analytics, and so much more. And the greatest part about TradeZeller is that it's all automated. All you have to do is connect your MT4 and MT5. It will pull all your data onto the dashboard. You can add playbooks. You can just add notes. You can add images from your trades, and you can get the insights that is necessary for you to progress as a trader. Now, TradeZeller is for absolutely everyone. Whether you're a crypto trader, whether you're a Forex trader, whether you trade prop firms, it is for absolutely everyone. And that is why thousands of traders have signed up using my link here through the podcast. Make sure you use the code RIZ10 for 10% off your monthly subscription, or WOR for 20% off your yearly subscription. The link is in the description below. And let's get back to the episode.
Was the most profitable trader in the past 24 hours on derivatives. And it was a big thing for me because the amount of times that I cried, laughed, and slept with my laptop was, you cannot count it on 1,000 hands. So it was an interesting day for me. But yeah, so there are these leaderboards on the bigger exchanges where you can display or remain anonymous, right? Like, I mean, in these leaderboards, your name will pop up. You can just choose, do you want it to be associated to yourself or not? Of course, this is very much for retail investors. It's not like I made $100 million or something yesterday. Like, this is very much for non-algorithmic based VC. Like, this is just, no market makers, no bigger this is very much, you are an individual public guy.
Don't play it down though. Don't play it down, because it's absolutely incredible. Obviously, like we've heard where the start was, and you already mentioned that you have positions that are running 7 figures in the background whilst you're here on a podcast. And as we know with the retail traders, they want to get into that position. That's where they're aiming towards. They're aiming towards to try and be in that position as well. So for them, being able to hear the start of your journey, how you started to obviously now in being in that position, and I'm sure there's moments in between that we need to get into as well. But that's what they're after. That's why they're here. That's why they're listening, because they want to be in that position too.
And just to give them hope at times, right? Because I had, I think, potentially like 6 or 7 times in my life where I was, and all of these periods, I literally, my account got wiped. So I got liquidated for 300, 700, a million. Like, I got liquidated for a substantial life-changing amount of money, and the account was empty, right? So years and years and years of build up, 15 minutes of doom, meaning 1 week, because the volatility in crypto is insane, right? So if you don't manage your risk properly, or you don't learn to manage your risk properly, the market will manage your position for you, meaning the market will close your position and liquidate your assets.
What happened in those moments? Because they're the moments I want to talk about in terms of those very low moments. What was your thoughts like? How did you rebuild after that?
This is initially why I said I hate trading, because I am by far the worst version of myself when I'm in serious trades. Therefore, funnily enough, 72 hours ago, before I hit the biggest P&L on ByBit, very stressed, but you get used to it. You get better at it. But I literally turn into a person that I don't want to be. I isolate myself. Especially when the position goes when the trade goes against me, I isolate myself. I am not sleeping. And this is very personal, what I can tell you. And I don't think I've never said this online. I had somewhat like a heart attack not that long ago, Q1 this year.
Oh, really?
Or at least it sounds maybe now stupid, but it was just a severe panic attack.
They say it's the same feeling.
I genuinely thought my heart would stop. And this was the moment where a lot for me changed. It was the best quarter of my life, Q1 this year. Inshallah, this quarter now will potentially be better. But the way I was just ruining myself, my mind, my body, and my relationships, very unhealthy, very, very unhealthy, right? So as I said, everyone's always glamorizing, being a trader, and, I'm sitting on my Lamborghini outside in Dubai and I make millions of dollars. It's all shit. Those are the marketing guys, right? The real trader is very, very disciplined. Sometimes, I always say there's two things that make a trader good. Either you're incredibly disciplined or you have big balls and conviction when the time's right. Mm-hmm. I am definitely not the disciplined one. I just have high conviction and reasonably sized balls when it's when time matters, to. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, during these periods, you just feel like you've been robbed of your time. I've been grinding for so long, and then this fucking account is empty again, and you start from scratch. And this is something many from the viewers potentially can resonate with. Starting with little money is tough, because now you have to be even more careful, right? Because yes, we can also talk about this because it's interesting. People think when you have a lot of money, it's so much easier to, just make another M. And people say the first million is the toughest. I agree. But also I tend to disagree. Like it's two sides of the coin again, because if you get to 1 million by yourself with very little capital, you should be able to, you've learned your lessons to somehow not blow up completely. Mm-hmm. In my case, because crypto is so volatile, I'm just a kind of like an impulsive person. So sometimes my balls can be too good for my own good. Mm-hmm. But I think at one point, you deserve to have these bigger positions, and you do have the experience to manage them accordingly. With a baboonie with low experience and very little money, it's tough. So you need to take some of these riskier trades at times, especially if you have hundreds of dollars. One thing I wish would have been different in my upbringing in my trading career is I wish I had just a regular job. Like I wish I had income. I started with zero. I never had a job in my life. Straight out of high school, homie was trading with $300 that then turned into 30. And from there, I made my first 7 figures, but then back to zero. So when I was back to zero after being a millionaire in 2017, that was a tough one. Because I'm standing there, I went back to university.
Really?
Absolutely. I was in 3 different universities over the path of like 3-4 years. Whenever the bull market was back, I left, and then I came back for the next round because I lost it all again. And this was something where at one point I was extremely upset with myself because I made the same mistakes again. I didn't manage my risk accordingly. Because there's a huge difference between I make $2 million, I lose 400K. Or I make $2 million and I go back to zero. Even if the 400K feels different, and this is something we should definitely talk about, is the perception of money. The psychology related to your net worth fluctuating and what $200 were to me 10 years ago, what they're to me now, right? Like all of these things change. And I'm reading a book called The Psychology of Money right now, where one of the chapters explains how personal of an experience your perception of money is, which I think is brilliant. It's so sick. So a person that came up very poorly, where the family at all times had to, count the pennies and be like, we cannot do this and this, is very likely turning out to be a much better risk manager, money-related risk manager, than a person who, grew up in a lavish lifestyle where, there was always enough money there so we can throw it around. But yeah, so what I wanted to say is, at one point in 2017, I had 6 figures left, but it felt like nothing because I made my first couple millions. And because I thought, now it's only 100K, you lose the fact that I was still a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid with $100,000 liquid to your name. That's fantastic. You're literally in the best position you can be in. 99.9999999% of the people in the world do not have a liquid net worth of $100,000 when they're 18, 19 years old. But it felt like shit to me because I had a little much more, and then I fell back. So I was like, I'm going to continue to gamble with this. I'm going to continue to go fully risk on while I was committing the same mistakes. So I ended up at zero, and going back from 0 to 100K took me much longer then is as if I would have just been like, hey, I got my ass handed to me, good experience. Let's try, to mitigate the risks better and then try to, not do the same mistakes again. I did the same mistakes again. And yeah.
What did that look like, that 0 to 100K, when you had to do that?
I started a company where I was explaining crypto to everyone. So for a brief amount of time, and this was for 2 months. For 2 months during COVID, I was teaching people about crypto. I was a crypto millionaire before, right? So I was him. And it was an interesting situation because everyone thought I was still him. The only thing that I still had was a supercar that I purchased before. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I don't want this to come across as weird or just, literally weird. For a period of time, I felt like I am pretending to be someone that I'm not. Because everyone thought, trading lord, him, millionaire. And I lost it all. So it was a very, very dark, and simultaneously I was in an accident with my best friend. So my best friend died in my arms.
Wow.
I lost all my money. I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, while I knew I had it in me. Like, I was not lying to anyone, and I was never saying stuff like I'm now publicly saying, I'm a multi-millionaire. I was never saying stuff, but people were assuming. There's this guy, well-dressed, in his sports car. Everyone knows he loves crypto. It's all he talks about. But in the background, it's me scrambling to pay the insurance for the car, right? So that was probably the most, by far, the toughest time of my life in terms of personal growth. Of course, I said this a few times to my friends. I was like, either I went to the bridge and fucking jumped because I was so down bad. You cannot be more down bad. I am very lucky that my family is the best in the world and I was healthy, so I was okay. But everything I worked for and my best friend, it was a lot. And that was the moment where I decided either I step up or I jump. Decision was made. It's time to, reinvent myself and just try to be a net positive for the world and for the people around me. And this is what 2018-19 was then the time where I was like, I cannot let myself down and I cannot let my best friend down who believed in me. And now we're here.
So from that moment then, was there still, I'm guessing there would have still been fluctuations, but did you
All
blow
the
up
time.
again after that?
No,
or?
I mean, I had, in 21 after my comeback, so
that was a good stretch of time though. That was like 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, crypto is very cyclical. So every 4 years, there's like more or less, you cannot pin it down specifically. But over the past, and history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, especially in investing. So every 4 years, usually there's 2 years of proper bear market. All the the companies that raise too high, that are inactive, they all go to zero. And then there's a year and a half, 2 years of bull market where new stuff arises. Bitcoin makes new all-time highs, and there's new attention, new money, and everyone is happy about crypto again. And I would say most previous cycle I've done well enough that I would say I never had to work again after 21 in terms of just money, whatever. Also something for later, retirement is a scam. Everyone dreams about being on the beach, drinking a cocktail. Not true, but let's get to that later. So the first 2 bubbles, I blew up 100%. And then let's say since 21-ish, I was finally not committing the same mistakes that got me into a severe, stupid situation anymore.
What changes do you feel you made to restrict that and stop that from happening?
It's interesting because it's a little contradicting. You have to go very, very fast when it's time. And you have to go very, very slow when it's time. And the very slow and the very fast are brothers. So you need to switch from, hold on, this can get so much worse, to you see the market just going to zero and in your mind, you're like, what the fuck was that? And that is then the moment you take on the max risk. And this is, of course, something that people, and myself for a decade, are doing constantly wrong, is they take on more risk the higher the market goes, the more confident they are, the higher the prices are, which, in theory, you should be max bullish or max bearish, depending on the extreme levels of the price. So the lower Bitcoin goes, the more I want to buy, but the lower Bitcoin goes, the higher the probability that it's going to continue to go lower. So it's very important to have a technical understanding of trends while being convicted in the macro fundamental of this specific asset. So for me, Bitcoin has, and I've been memeing and posting about this, Bitcoin will go to $100,000. There's zero doubt in my mind. And now with Trump potentially getting elected and whatever, like we could have $100,000 Bitcoin by Christmas, literally. This goes so quick now. This week on Sunday, we closed a weekly candle that was so important for the overall trend continuation of the crypto markets, ridiculous. Therefore, I was so convicted in my longs on ByBit, and therefore I was the number one, because I was having ridiculous conviction and size in this trade, because I was just so certain. But the biggest problem and difficulty is when to put your full throttle and when to say, oof, everyone else is going full throttle. That might be the moment where these guys are about to commit the mistake that I've been making for decades. I might go and buy myself a Ferrari now and I chill a little. So it's this constant dance. It's salsa or tango between full on conviction and high risk. And this went so much higher than I initially thought. Let's wait out a little while all the other ones are going crazy and euphoric and taking their grandma's mother to put more in it. So this is kind of like the two sides of the coin when it comes to cryptocurrency specifically, because it's so volatile. So that is kind of like the game I play these days.
No, definitely. And in terms of allocation of your capital now, has there been a case where, because of the past experiences and the volatile nature of crypto as well, you sort of don't have all your net worth in crypto? You invested elsewhere so that...
I am literally selling all my real estate right now as we speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I have such high conviction that crypto and Bitcoin specifically will drastically outperform. So in Q1, when I told you I had my best performing quarter,
I saw this tweet, yeah.
I was buying a lot of real estate. And now me and my boys were literally like on the phone to realtors all the time to get rid of it. So it is extremely important to diversify after you hit it big. And this is one of the core things that I'm doing better now. Some of the real estate I'm never going to get rid of. But I'm in a position now where the real estate that I don't buy for a flip is the real estate that I want to own for the next 10, 15 years. I am no expert in real estate, and everyone here in Dubai just says up only. So I don't know who to believe. Some of the real estate guys, I feel like I know more about real estate than them, even though I have very little understanding of it. But right now, for example, funnily enough, the profits I took in Q1, I re-inject right now. This is how confident I am that Bitcoin is going to go into a pretty outrageous bull market over the next 6, 12, 14 months.
And you said towards the beginning of the podcast that you only probably trade for the next year or two.
Correct.
Is that just trading though? Investing, you'll still continue in crypto?
This is when I said retirement is a scam per se. Now that I'm a first-time founder now. I'm a CEO. I'm the CEO of my company. So every day I learn a shit ton of things. Being good with money does not mean you can lead a team. Being a funny, charismatic, influential person does not mean you can lead a team. Sometimes I'm too nice of a boss, sometimes because I'm very, chaotic at times. So I need very strong infrastructure of employees and partners helping me to maneuver all these things. So my plan is being fully exposed to crypto, and of course with my company Collective benefiting heavily from that, and just making sure this project goes down as not only a trade, but a part of people's life. And this is something I feel very strongly convicted in. I do my best. I don't need money anymore. I want to help the guys that believe in me, right? Because there's 1,000 people saying Trading Lord now, probably his account got blown up again. Now he makes this token just to make money, whatever. I'm literally on the leaderboard. I'm doing very fine. This is something that is very dear to my heart. I've never been involved in a project ever before. This is my one baby that I will bootstrap to $1 billion market cap in the next 2 years. And then I disappear from social media. You will never hear me again. In terms of real estate and asset allocation, I think we're getting, and I'm no expert in these things, but in order to trade crypto well, you need to have a somewhat basic understanding of financial economy, geopolitical tensions or whatever it might be, to just, these things affect my trades very much. The biggest loss I've ever took, which was this summer, I think May, June, I took a big 7-figure loss because I think Iran was shooting a missile on Israel somewhat out of the blue. But if I would have been more involved in geopolitical understanding of the situation, I would have not kept these positions open, right? Yeah. So these things matter a lot. So my macro plan for the next 24 to 48 months is fully benefit from the heavy devaluation of fiat currencies around the world. American election, I hope Donald Trump is going to get reelected. It is what it is. And then using the severe appreciation of risk on assets like real estate, crypto, in my opinion, the most, will benefit the most from, just more capital injections. You've seen it. The Chinese government has started now to literally bazookaing billions and billions of dollars into their economy. Interest rates have been cut now. They will continue to cut likely. So full on, same thing, limbo between full on risk to full on cash. And this is something where people are like, oh, you're just a young baboon. Why would you try to top the macro economic growth cycle? I am fairly confident we are so vastly underestimating the power of AI and how much workforce is about to just be eliminated and taken away from human beings. I genuinely believe in 3 to 6 years from now, we're going to be in a very, very weird situation where macroeconomic growth potentially just goes up slightly because AI is carrying the boat so much. But that then means that 50 people, 100 people, thousands of people get replaced by one specific, either like robotics, because Musk now, for example, is saying in 15 years from now, there will be twice the amount of humanoid robots on the planet than human beings, right? So if AI takes away a big chunk of the work, while there's suddenly your butler, a robot that does your gardening, washes your car, and feeds the baby, what is everyone else doing, right? So my plan is very clear, and I can be totally wrong. I have no issues. I'm fully risk on the next 24 months. I buy pieces of property in the world in different locations that I think make sense, and I don't touch them. And I go there, hopefully building literally like a village. This is my plan. I'm building. I want to build places where the people that align with my visions or our like a community with my friends. We're buying these things, and then everyone just makes 15 kids. We watch them grow up, watch them play football together. We box all together, and we have a good time. This is my macro outcome because I am genuinely afraid of the repercussions of potentially 20, 30, 40% of the population just getting replaced by either robots or AI.
It should be interesting because it makes sense in terms of what AI's capabilities in just the last year.
It goes
just
so
the
quick.
last year.
It goes so
how
quick.
fast the growth.
And if you haven't used AI a year and a half ago, you don't understand how incredible and a creative like you, for example, from Midjourney to DALL-E to LLMs to voice to speech, whatever it might be. These things. I have seen a video of myself in Chinese. I was falling off my chair. A guy from my community made a video of me yapping in Chinese.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was the best thing I've ever seen.
And it has your tone of voice, right?
It has everything. At one point, if I do 3 more podcasts, they can feed all that information in the fucking LLM, and they can replace me yapping on stream in Chinese or Spanish. It's nuts. So I think people are kind of just not aware how quick these things are getting better. And people are like, yeah, maybe in 10 years, if we continue with this pace, and usually, there's this hockey stick growth patterns. And I think we think 10 years, it could literally be in 3, right? And then you have Musk with his virtual reality glasses, where initially everyone was like hyped. Then everyone was like, I don't care because there's no apps that you can use for this. Yeah. And right now he is heavily pivoting back to metaverse with interesting things. One of my best friends is building the biggest metaverse company here in the UAE. Wild scenes. So trading lords, not variable prediction is in 10 to 15 years from now, people will be living in a pod, wearing VR, getting universal basic income sent to you with a cryptocurrency or a digital dollar, whatever it might be. And you just live in your little world because there is no room for you, or there's very little reason for you to.
Do you find it fascinating how the layers all sort of intertwine?
Suddenly everything makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
the universal basic income, but then digital money.
Absolutely.
Not physical version.
And you're wearing
digital.
your little thing, so
VR,
you're tucked away
AI.
in your little box. You think that you have your different reality where you can be whoever you want to be. You're away in terms of issues from all the governments. You're well kept there. You're fed. You're happy. Everything's okay. Very, very scary.
Yeah.
Not a world that I want to live in. Therefore, I build my own mountains with
That's it.
with the goats and the kids. But yeah, we're entering very interesting times. I don't want to be too pessimistic about these things. I saw a different perspective where a guy who was an AI data researcher and an analyst, and he's like, we reached kind of a plateau where the LLMs are just, they can do everything that they were supposed to do, but we're so far away from them starting, to be kind of like a mind on its own,
More sentient.
more sentient. So maybe I am being a little over dramatic. I don't know. And again, I'm no expert, so I could be completely wrong.
You know what the classic saying is like, they already have that. They just don't tell us about it.
Because they know that society is not ready
so
for
when
stuff.
they had 1 megabyte speed internet, they already had a gigabyte, but they just kept that to one side.
Keep it in the little
need to
secret
scale
locker.
it. Yeah, they need to scale it and financially monetize that scale up as well.
I think if you... there was an article I read about VR glasses, like literally in the 2000s, like 99, 2003, and they tried it, and the society was just like, what am I going to do with this? Like, I have zero desire to run around with something that is not just, normal sunglasses. Now I feel like, and I think we can have an interesting discussion about implementing a chip in yourself, for example. I think Elon Musk is one of the most interesting men walking this planet right now, and what he does with Neuralink, for example, where, he helps people that can't feel their legs or whatever, to regain the what is it called, synapses in their brain, or they reconnect them. And I was speaking to a friend of mine because I was listening to a podcast of Musk, and he was saying, what if at one point the Neuralinks from your brain and my brain, they can communicate, but on a times 10, times 15 speed in transferring the information. And I thought that was crazy interesting, because he's like, imagine our world if we would slow down language and information by 100%, by 50%, for example. Everything, this podcast would take us 19 hours instead of 3, because I cannot get the information across as quick. What happens now if you multiply it by 2, or, that you make it 10 times faster? If I can just look at you and you know exactly the whole context and everything I'm about to yap about. Yeah. Interesting, right?
So kind of the Matrix. You mean downloads the skills?
Downloads the skills, downloads everything, and it's just us communicating with instant speed. You understand everything I said clearly. It's crazy. It's a crazy world we live in. And then people are like, I would never put a chip in me. I am getting anxious already because my phone, I haven't looked at it in an hour and a half. Fair enough, I have a $10 million position open. But still, this is an extension of us already. And 100%. We grew up with it, but we didn't grew up with it. Like, I wasn't holding an iPad when I was 3 years old. So the next generations, I think it's going to be crucial, like crazy. So this is also something, keep your kids away from some of these things. And then other people would say, but then they don't have access to the biggest library in the world. And I was like, you can still give them books and read about it.
It's like a combination, It's a combination.
It's everything in doses, I guess.
It's like you said, that there's two sides to the coin. You always have to have both. And it's hard to do, because it's like we're not naturally inclined to be balanced and to sort of think in that way. We're very emotional creatures, but I think trading, though it brings it out as well, trading and investing brings out the emotions.
It's the most emotional thing ever.
But stay long enough and push yourself long enough, you bring it more centered. And even like you said, now running
the emotions are not specifically changing with the amounts. So the $10 million position I might have open now was my $1,000 position when I had $200. So it's just suppressing the need to do something that has proven over and over and over again to be a wrong decision. And it's like touching fire. Like trading and investing is no rocket science. Manage your risk on a longer time frame, and you will be okay if you read up on new things. But when stuff gets out of pocket in terms of upside or downside, that is the moment you get actually challenged in, did you learn from previous mistakes? Do you know that you shouldn't sell the Bitcoin bottom like you did in 2021? Do you know that this time when, it's all over the news, Bitcoin is $160,000, Donald Trump is embracing it and saying the American government is buying more Bitcoin, and now suddenly Spain and Luxembourg and everyone else is also saying, okay, if they put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, we potentially should also get a few. Bitcoin goes to 300,000. Like, there is a chance that the most ridiculous stuff happens that will absolutely not have anything to do with rational investing or trading. And this can also be a pain in the ass, right? I am pretty rational now as an investor. I'm missing out on ridiculous money because I'm not doing the same mistakes again. That doesn't mean that I'm 100% right or that I'm milking the profitability to the max, but I'm taking the money home. And this is the biggest difference between me and someone who's about to start. Again, I said it in this podcast, he likely outperforms me for weeks, for a month. A year is already very unlikely. But I learned to take these profits and I take them home, right? And then, this is something I say to some of my community at times. It might sound dumb, but buying Rolexes every other week when you're just very lucky and you make tens of thousands of dollars with crypto is not the dumbest idea in the world. These things might lose 10, 15% of their value, whatever it might be. But if you buy very basic Rolex Submariners and you just literally accumulate them and take it out of your crazy risky meme coin portfolio, at least you have $40,000 worth of watches later on. All your meme coins went to zero. So this is something. It's liquid. Keep it in a safe. Don't wear it. Don't scratch it. Just, if you buy them properly, maybe they even sustain or grow in value. So I am a fan, because it's very a fan of telling people, it don't have to be flashy, but do reward yourself with stuff that is liquid and that somewhat sustains their value during these crazy euphoria periods. Because there is a high chance you go home with minus 80%. So I was in a position where I had to sell some of my watches because it was part of the profits I took. But then, when I blew up again, now I have $200,000 worth of watches and a net worth of $300,000. That is a shit position to be in, but at least I am not back at zero. And this is what I've seen 1,000 times. And again, I've been through it many, many times. You literally go very close back to zero. I know many, many people that started a bull cycle with $20,000 investment from grandpa. They go up to hundreds of thousands and they end it with 12. Right? So it's a very trading, investing, profit taking. And this is funny when people ask me, Scott, what should I do? What should I buy? What should I trade? I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know how good your risk tolerance is. Can you sleep at night if you're in a trade? Do you understand what Bitcoin is and why it likely is going to go to 150K? Right? So I have no idea who you are. So it's funny when people ask me, I just assume like they must not be seasoned investors, because I don't go up to people saying, okay, what should I buy now? And it doesn't matter if it's in real estate or whatever. Of course, I ask people for advice all the time, but it's not just like with the guns blazing saying, you tell me what I should do now and I will follow your lead, right? And it's also very, very interesting now, after being a social crypto person for a while. It's such a net negative. Whatever you say, someone's going to lose, right? I can tell you to buy Bitcoin now on this podcast at, $67,000. It's going to go to 300. Someone listening to this at one point might buy it at 120 or 160. It goes to 300 and they sell it at 80, right? It doesn't matter what you say. So therefore, me, as my role as trading lord, is just try to give them actionable advice that is not that specific that someone can be like, oh, but trading lord told me this, this, and this. I am confident today in saying, Bitcoin at $60,000, if Trump gets elected, if no black swan happens. A black swan is an event that no one could have predicted, like COVID, where literally the markets, everything just nukes to zero. Then it doesn't matter if you're holding stocks or crypto or whatever, everything will drastically devaluate. But yeah, so it's a constant readjustment. And now that my brand became a little bigger, I have to be a little more careful with how I speak, what I say, when I say it. And usually I'm very unfiltered. So it's not specifically, and I told my videographer, my friend earlier, I'm not going to remain, I'm going to just disappear once Collective my company is in a stage where they don't rely on me being the driving force. And you will never see my face again. If you can come, you, for example, can come and visit me on my mountain, but on my Greek island. But for the rest, I have very little desire to remain public. I think the same guy who got me into crypto, so my goat, he said it's so much better to be unknown and wealthy than to be rich and famous. And as funny as it sounds, now when I go to these crypto conferences, people are coming up to me, and sometimes even in Lisbon or whatever, when I go through Europe, people in the club, they're like, aren't you trading lord? And I'm like, what the fuck? Now I have, 120,000 people maybe on Twitter following me, and I forget, that's twice the Bernabeu Stadium or something, crazy amounts of people if you think about it. But it has been an interesting journey, and I think it will remain interesting over the next couple of months. But in the long term, I don't think that I don't want to run for president. I don't want to have any political involvement. Money doesn't make me happy. Power doesn't specifically make me happy. There's different things that I aspire to do. I want to do good, and having money is the most powerful vehicle to changing the world. So I will continue my quest on amassing and gathering and accumulating more money. But I think after all I've been through, even though, when people see me, they're like, oh, this suit-wearing asshole, I am very confident with who I am now after what I've been through. And I know why I do it. And this is what gets me up in the morning. It's not, from yesterday to today, nothing fundamentally changed in my life. I was the number one on ByBit or whatever. it was such an honor for me and just like a sign of appreciation and, all the hard work I've put in. But, the numbers on the screen, not that I couldn't care less, but it's not about that. Right now, I just like to trade because I think I am a little better than the majority, which means it would be stupid to train boxing for all your life. And then there's a big fight where you can get recognition and then financial well-being, and you're not going to take the fight.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, I am very curious to see what other occupations and jobs and stuff I will do in my retirement. Because, you have to keep your mind busy.
So you tell us about the retirement scam.
So retirement as a young person is a scam, especially if you're not a very disciplined person like myself. When I was temporarily rich in my previous cycles, what was I doing? I was drinking alcohol all the time, spending money on the dumbest things, being reckless with my relationships. I became very, very chubby and I had severe health issues. Everything turns to shit when you're just getting consumed by all these surface level desires. And this is what a person like me can literally ruin. So the best thing for me was to understand, I have a loving girlfriend, I have the best friends in the world, and we have a mission. And we walk this path together. Having a good company is everything in life. So whatever I'm going to do afterwards, I just want to meet interesting people, potentially use my money to invest in them and help them grow. But the last thing I want to do is being drunk 24/7 for vacation is fantastic. Take your people that you care about and people that you appreciate around the world. Show them everything there is that money. I'm not saying money is not fantastic. I am excited to buy a new sports car. I'm excited to buy a house in the south of France for my family, and my sister just became pregnant, so I am thrilled to show them whatever they desire because they truly deserve it. But me, myself, I don't want to lay on a beach and drink pina colada for the rest of my days because I will just end up being the worst version of myself.
Yeah.
And while I'm in distress, while I'm on a mission, I am energetic. I take people around me with me and we're like, boys, this is interesting. Do you think we're capable of doing this? Let's face this challenge. So challenge, and this is, funnily enough that you mentioned the boxing match, I was in a very, very dark spot when I accepted that fight. It was in 21. I blew up again. I was fine, but I was down a lot of money again. I was living in Lisbon in Portugal. Everything was perfect, and objectively speaking, I was doing okay, but I already had 7 years of ruining myself with trading before.
Yeah.
I just felt like one of these moments where I was like, right now I feel like I deserve more, and life is just being not nice to me. And then the boxing fight came around, and it's changed everything for me. It changed everything for me. I had to train twice a day.
Yeah.
I got into martial arts. I understand what it means to get hit. I understand the respect, the discipline it requires, the balls to get into a ring with a man that tries to hurt you. It learned me, and all my kids, my friends, I box with the boys now all the time. It's, in my opinion, for a man, a young man, the most important thing you can do is get into any types of high performance sports, but more importantly, in my opinion, martial arts.
Yeah.
Get yourself in a position where another human being can hurt you to an extent where you're like, fuck this, I genuinely don't want to be here anymore. This is the dumbest thing. But the reward of getting better at it is like nothing you've ever seen, right? So I took on the challenge and I became the WBC crypto world champ, which is another fun little adventure,
incredible,
right?
yeah.
It's and this is, in my opinion, what life is all about. It's just having these side quests that just force you to do stuff where you're like, I've never been in a fucking boxing ring. I have no idea.
Why do you think crypto is so? It's like you said about community. Like crypto, there's so much talks about doing like a Forex fight night, but it never happens, never materializes. No one's ever shown any interest.
I tell you why. Because no one is vouching for each other. Because everyone knows deep down they're selling trades and signals and here and there. They wouldn't want their own brother to be in their best friend or the other public
People
Forex
they
guys
know, yeah.
group, right? And in crypto, it's similar in terms of how fast you can make money, but I still believe that crypto is not a zero-sum game because the crypto industry is constantly growing over the years. With Forex, I have to chuckle about the Forex guys at times. I know they make $300,000 a month, and my videographer has been working for many of them. They might be great guys. They might know what they're doing. But we all know that it is literally getting 50% of the deposit from the broker, and therefore it's pure marketing. Deposit $1,000, he just made 500 without making a trade. So most of these guys, what they need to do is find a guy who is somewhat reasonable at trading, sending these signals, and then yap in front of a camera saying, I have 7 Ferraris. And no, they don't buy Ferraris, they buy Lamborghinis. I have 7 Lamborghinis and a very ugly Richard Mille watch. I know what I'm doing. You should come and pay and, be involved. And the longevity of these communities don't last. Why is Collective right now? We launched during summer 3 months ago. It's worth 45 or 50 million dollars right now, and there's we haven't done any marketing. I haven't been public about any of it. It's just my Twitter community because the guys have been with me for 3-4 years. These guys believe in me, and that makes me get up in the morning. I don't want to disappoint these guys. They hold KOL, the token. They own as much of the company as me, and now at this point more because the team tokens are vested for 36 months. Like, we take this with such a long-term approach while genuinely trying to build something that benefits these guys. And this is why they are diehard fans. This is why they're like, this guy has helped me when I was depressed. This guy helped me when I had no money, and he helped me make my first 500. That 500 I put into an altcoin or something, and it went to 50,000. This guy changed my life. And with the Forex guys, I feel like, first of all, they're all like very much, fuck you. My ad should do better than yours because I am dependent on it. Yeah. So it's very competitive, but in a very egocentric way.
No collaboration.
No collaborations and nothing. Because why? It's just everything's fucking sketchy. It's very sketchy in my opinion. And when I think about Forex, and I've never traded Forex much. When I started before I bought my first crypto, while I had my the e-commerce stuff, I bought a few ETFs, I bought a few stocks. I tried myself in Forex a little. Maybe I'm completely off, but trading currencies from countries that are in constant political turmoil, I think I should be. Supposedly, I should be very well at understanding macro political tensions, politics. Like, Donald Trump is about to speak. I should take a look at the DXY if the dollar strength is about to increase. Like, all of these things. And whenever I meet the Forex guys,
they have no idea.
They have no fucking idea. Literally, they have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Zero. So again, I could be wrong. I just feel like Forex is a very get-rich-quick kind of like marketing tool. There's people like Stanley Druckenmiller, like the GOATs that did hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars with specific currency trades.
Yeah.
This is where I'm like, he knew what he was doing. He put hundreds of millions of size, and therefore he got rewarded. I think day trading Forex is... It's I would assume it's very, very, very complex. There's so many moving parts. There's so much, so many different pieces of information that you have to put together to kind of like make a thesis saying, I think the dollar is going to appreciate over the yen. I know that these guys are only trading technical analysis, so they generally don't care. But yeah, for me, it was always an industry where I was not interested in it. I would say because fundamentally there's nothing that I can believe in. And I think this goes back to meme coins. This goes back to the company I'm building. Yeah. Believe in something. Believe in you being part of something that nets a positive for everyone involved.
Yeah. We need to set up a crypto fight night versus Forex.
We can do that.
We should try and set
they can get some of these hands. No, I'm not actively fighting for now because you cannot be the CEO and trader and a boxer.
You just send someone in. You be the management instead.
I can manage them.
But one thing you mentioned earlier, like you're very fundamentally driven, right? As a crypto trader and investor. Do you look at technicals at all? Is technicals a part of your trading?
I don't think you can be number one trader in the short term without having any understanding of the technicals. I became known because of my technicals. Okay. I didn't become known because of my yapping, right? I was always trading Lord, but for the longest time because I was having a picture similar to how I'm dressed now with a cigar. Yeah. So people thought it's just a random guy that I took because on crypto Twitter, most people, they're anonymous. Yeah. So everyone is a dog, everyone is here, everyone is there. I was trading Lord with a cigar and sunglasses since day one. And then at one point people were like, okay, this is actually Scott, this is the guy. But initially I was posting charts all the time. I still post charts and this is my edge. Because the trades I take, I'm not reinventing the wheel about understanding the value proposition of Bitcoin, right? You know potentially as much about Bitcoin than I do. So all I have is to time the market better than you in order to make more gains potentially than someone who's just buying Bitcoin. So when I say I day trade or I hit big on these trades, it's very much a well-timed trade. So technical analysis is very, very important. But on the other hand, I would say when I see some of the guys with 19 indicators and heat maps and yappa, and then, first, I think algorithms in general, careful. When someone is selling you something, as I said before, an algorithm is 99% of the time bullshit. If there is an edge, it gets exploited, and then it's not there anymore because the guy made money, and then your algorithm is done. The guys that do it very well are quants, like with very, very, very sophisticated methods that the guy on Telegram is not going to sell you. But indicators is an interesting one because I use very, very basic setups, very basic resistance and support levels, relative strength index, some EMAs at times when, just to measure the breakouts and stuff. Very, very basic stuff. And for my profit taking, and if you've been watching for this long, this might be the most interesting part because people are always asking me, okay, I understand that I will very likely be too greedy, too euphoric to take profits. How and when? How can I incorporate a strategy that just tells me and flashes a light and says, hey, bros, we might get to a top. We're so overboard on every indicator. But the thing is, everyone will see these things. It's not like, I use 4 very basic indicators that will very much tell me when it's at least, I'm not going to sell the Pico top, like specifically. No one is buying the bottom and no one is buying the top. You just need to get the big chunk in between. And I'm quite confident that I will leave this crypto bubble somewhat close to the top. And the signs are very, very clear. Everyone actively decides not to look at them when it's actually time. So everyone has 19 indicators that are flashing during the bull market where you don't need them. We're going up. We're going much higher. Bottom and top is the only time where I heavily rely on macro indicators. And again, a weekly RSI, you can literally see in previous bubbles when they hit 85, 90% on weekly, monthly timeframes. Zoom the fuck out. Another huge mistake that I've done 1,000 times is you get so obsessed with day trading 4-hour candles, an hour candle, that your TPs are either way too close, so you just, you take profit and you run after a new entry. You gave up your fantastic entry because the coin did 6% in a day, and it's literally shaping up on a weekly candle to make 40, 50, 70, 100%. But you're out of your position because you considered it a day trade. So zooming out, using stuff like, zooming out in terms of use weekly candles, use monthly candles, use 3-day, very, very bullish. These are my core, when do I get in and when do I get out, kind of like time frames. For smaller stuff right now, the trades I'm in, for example, Elias, can you check the crypto market just for a second? Up, down, side? No, because it's been long. So right now, for example, I'm in trades that are based on 4-hour candles. So I am, if I was on the leaderboard yesterday, it was not because of the weekly candle specifically, even though I said the Bitcoin weekly candle closed so strongly that it gave me a lot of confidence that we will have short-term momentum to, solidify the fact that Bitcoin is going to go much higher for the next couple of months. No? Sorry?
66.8.
Fine. Bullish. Okay. But yeah, so for new people that just got into the space or whatever, zoom out a little. As I said, move slow in taking profits, but be then very greedy and quick when it's time to flip. As I said before, it's a limbo between all gas, no brakes, and very slow, take your time. So right now, in my opinion, we're still in the all gas, no brakes. And then once major indicators tell you we're so overbought, this is max euphoria. The candles, the weekly candles are very long, like just crazy stuff is happening. You cannot believe how much money you made. That is the moment you should come and see me, and I tell you all the reasons why you should
give you the receipts.
Take profits, change your life forever, and be done. It was a great chapter.
Your day trades, though, do you have a mixture? Do you like scalp, day trade, swing trade, or is it a specific sort of style that you go for?
It's very unique, I would say. At this point, sometimes I don't even have stop losses.
Really?
So I enter a trade with conviction, like the one that put me on the leaderboard now. I was just so confident that Bitcoin is going to have a high weekly close, and ETH BTC, so the pair between, because it's also interesting to chart altcoins in between each other. ETH BTC has been getting so much downside, like there was zero strength, and then on very short time frames, I saw that there's the usual suspects on a specific exchange bidding ETH more than they were bidding Bitcoin. So I was then heavily bidding on ETH US dollar. So because Bitcoin went up and then ETH BTC gain strength, that then means that ETH US dollar outperforms. And so I was very convicted, and it paid off. But on my day-to-day stuff, very uniquely. Again, it's a very personal thing. You cannot replicate it. It's the balls that are tingling. And the brain that is somewhat working, and then sometimes you just got to take a chance, go in with size, hold on to your conviction, and then while you're in the trade and it shapes up to be correct, zoom out and understand, the next 4 hour resistance is here, but we've been touching it 3 times already. It's very likely we're going to break through, and the next daily is another 15% away. Also, the reason why I was on the leaderboard was I canceled the initial. I saw myself making the same mistake, and I told it to my friend. Usually I would have taken profit here, and then I would wake up and we would have gone another 3, 4, 5, 7%. And this is where, of course, you want to have your take profits in place to maximize the trade. So, but with bigger position sizes, a small fluctuation is already, I made $50,000 in you know what I mean? It's tough to scale the same mistakes and trying to make them right when so much size is at stake, because you see those green numbers popping up saying, hey, you made a lot of money in a short amount of time. I don't talk about these things that much publicly because, either I tweet about it, but then hundreds of thousands of people see it immediately. So part of Collective, part of the company we're building, and the token that is out already, the token ticker is KOL on Solana, is, just getting insights to my brain as much as I can. I generally try to give them multiple times per day, just, my thought process and why I took this trade, and just giving them confidence and conviction at times. Because I have support systems around me as well where they help me. So with Collective now, I'm building just this group of very, very interesting people that are very good at different things. And we're just generally trying to then, provide as much value as possible to token holders of our project. So, yeah.
I'm going to quick fire some questions just to finish off, okay?
Go off, King.
One of them being, in terms of, there was a tweet I remember seeing where you were saying that you're now getting used to and having to adjust and sort of build your tolerance to managing 7- 8-figure positions and trades. How's that going for you? How's that been going?
It's a tough pill to swallow all the time. And again, as the size increases, the pressure increases as well. But like Jack Harlow used to say, the pressure keeps rising, but luckily I'm built for it. Yeah. You have to adapt. And this is very much a mental game. So you have to grow. You have to get comfortable sitting in the podcast with a $10 million position running without itching and without being crazy and having structured thoughts, right? But for the longest time, I wasn't like this. So these things, just like every other skill, nothing worth having comes easy. So just being exposed to this specific thing, obviously, hopefully makes me a little better. So now I can sit here and I have trust in myself that the trade I took is great. And if it's not, I have measurements and something at least in place that then closes the trade for me. Yeah. Now, I have stop losses in today. Also very interesting. After a big win, don't go crazy for 24 hours at least. Cool off, understand what has happened. So yeah, even though I'm saying right now, I have a 7-figure position open as we speak, but it was a position that was not opened immediately after. Okay. So I took my time off and I said, if Bitcoin reaches here, I am willing to be a buyer again. Yeah. And then yesterday we had a very nasty rejection. So suddenly I'm in a trade again with a very interesting and very opportunistic position. So this is the reason why I took the trade.
And just final two, one being in terms of how important has it been or how helpful has it been, if it has been helpful, that is, being able to connect. We talked about community, but also I know that you're very much talking to and around other great traders. Yeah. Trader Main being one, who's a friend of the podcast.
Trader Main.
That's it. But how helpful has it been to be able to connect and sort of mastermind with those sort of traders along the journey?
It's crucial. To an extent, it's the same story, just a different tone, which is everything you need when everyone is down bad, right? It's just having people that go through the same struggles that you can share your wins with and your losses, probably more importantly, is everything. And it just keeps you at bay. At times when you feel like you're by yourself and you took a big L, the most important thing is to have friends around you. And this is why we're so big on community for Collective. We go through thick and thin together and we try to do the best that we can, navigating this crazy world. Yeah. That's it.
And then final thing for me, for people who've been in maybe the last 2 cycles, have done the round trip, bought well, but didn't close well. and we're about to potentially go into another one, and they're still here in crypto, thankfully. But what would you say to them? Like, if you can direct it down the camera here, what would your advice to them be to hopefully make a change? Hopefully make a change and put themselves in a better position this time.
First of all, just believe in something. Believe that there is a chance that it's going to be as crazy as it was previously. 2017 was ridiculous. The ridiculousness of 2017, if you look at it on the chart, is this now to 21. Believe that this from 21 can be this to 26. Okay, so stuff can get, I think since COVID, like 20 or 30 or even more percent of the whole circulating supply of the US dollar has been printed. Gold has a market cap of $7 trillion. Bitcoin has what, 1.5 trillion maybe now. There is such a significant potential upside. Believe in something. Don't let your PTSD from previous cycle get you in a situation where you're too scared and you take profits way too early. Be cautious on the way up. Take your profits. Be very disciplined. But especially now in the beginning stages of the bull market, it's so important to position yourself well and hold on to these positions for a little longer. And then, as I said, once the flashing lights are coming up, we're crazy overbought. Your cousin made his first $10,000 with crypto and he has no idea what's going on. That is the moment when your barber, funnily enough, I was at the hairdresser and the guy was like, I just bought this coin. And I'm like, shit, very nice guy, but he has no idea what he's doing. And he's like, I'm vastly successful. I'm getting everyone in. So the moment where someone, because they will make money, but the moment other people come in because that guy made money, it's usually in a social construct. That is for me the sign where we're getting to people where the guy who was not supposed to make money made ridiculous money, and his friends are now FOMOing into the success of someone who wasn't supposed to have success in the first place. That is my advice.
No, I appreciate that. And hey, I think we could have gone longer.
Probably.
But we'll definitely come back.
We're getting kicked out.
No, I loved it.
Thank you so much for having me.
My absolute pleasure.
This was so great.
Definitely.
So I will be back.
100%.
See you
we
very
got to
soon.
set up that fight night. But links for Trader Law will be in the description below, so make sure you check those out. Other episodes will be on screen, but hit like, hit subscribe, and until next time, take care.